Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Ori and the Will of the Wisps Main Quest Order Tournament 2023, where we are into our semi-finals. That's right, at this point we have whittled our entire tournament down to our top 4 runners, and 2 of them will be competing here today in order to reach the finals themselves. Our 2 runners for this match are the world record holder and number 1 seed, Skarfelt, versus the number 4 seed in our challenger today, Zuzek. Both runners will be running with some RTA strats, so we'll hopefully have a very easily comparable race to run through as we blast through this game in order for one of these 2 great runners to make it to the finals. My name is Turtle, and I will be your commentator for this race today that we will hopefully be getting started in just a couple of minutes. But before we do, again, just some thoughts about this race. So first off, both these runners, super god tier runners. Like Scar holding the world record in basically every category that they do run in Ori the Will of the Wisps. Just a classic top tier. I don't have other words to describe Skarfelt. Amazing. They're just great. Zuzek is not to be discounted either. They've had some great performances in the prelims and did manage to topple Bobies, the 5th seed in their previous race against them, to progress on in the tournament. And so both runners definitely still have a shot to win in this race. And again, it's this and that's it in order to get to the finals. This is only a single elimination tournament. So one wrong move in this long category, over an hour potentially of Ori, one wrong move, and they could be heading down and leaving the other person to try and fend for themselves. So, oh man, I love this game and I love these runners. It's going to be an absolute blast to watch as we get into it in about 30 seconds from now. So, and again, I'll also mention both runners have elected beforehand to run using RTA or real-time attack strats. So that means, well, they won't be using strats to progress the in-game time, which often involves a lot of saving and quitting to the menu, which can be a little annoying to watch and to do, especially as often as it happens throughout the run. So both these runners have decided not to do it. It's slightly slower, but since they're both going to be using the same strategies, it'll be very comparable, and it should be great to watch. Still might notice slight differences in the timers, because loads are removed, and so while there won't be as many loads in this RTA strats run, there will be some amount of loads. That's just unavoidable with how the game works. So we are already seeing a little bit of that, just seconds so far, and again, it shouldn't be too bad with both runners staying in-game for the most part. But we are finally off to the races, starting out this race. Runners, throughout the majority of the early game, are going to be having to collect a lot of Spirit Light, 400 specifically, in order to get a weapon later on that'll be stupidly useful. And so there's only a limited amount of Spirit Light containers, which you can see both of our runners are grabbing some of the quicker ones right away. Scar did a little bit of a back turn there because he almost forgot to grab it, but luckily does pick it up. And so that'll be their first source of Spirit Light, as well as we just grabbed our first weapon, Torch. Torch isn't something you get to see throughout much of the later run because, well, you have to drop it, but it's super duper cool. Both of our runners already showing off how quickly it can attack with up slashes. Those will also give a little bit of a hover property to them, which you'll see Scar using to dodge some spikes, and you'll see Zuzek here on the left attempting the first major trick of the game. That looks pretty good. Yes, and he does get it first try. That torch hover lets you skip a little combat section down below, and combat is pretty slow, especially when you only have torch. Zuzek gets the next trick as well, a really precise keystone jump that Scar also absolutely demolishes. That makes them able to keep carrying their torch without putting it out. So both runners already through the really early trick in this run will be moving on, carrying torch, which will allow them to go pick up this container of Spirit Light down below. They will need to put their torch out in order to fight Howl, because if you don't, the game just soft locks. But there's a really quick and convenient way to do that. So keeping the torch helps with movement and helps with being able to grab the Spirit Light in the order that they want to. But both of our runners still very, very cleanly. Scar having maybe a little bit of nerves heading in. I don't know. But they just missed a trick like once. That's still not too much time lost, as they're both now just waiting for this door to open. That's really the first big thing that RTA strats will have to do, is they have to wait for doors to open, like that one. But it's again not too much time for them lost. Both of them are at the best boy, the best wolf at least. Bauer's a better animal overall, but the best dog boy. Growl at them and swipe at them, but they know this this path pretty well. It's fairly simple, but this fight can be interesting. So keep an eye out on Zuzek's side. We'll see how many times he gets knocked back. It takes 14 hits in order to defeat Howl, and you need to be up in his face the entire time in order to get optimal damage. Zuzek obliterates the fight. Scar does seem, just on pace as well. So 2 great Howl fights from both our runners, and with that, we are almost up to our first tree, and again, stupidly close race. I cannot wait to see how it further develops. And so here we drop into Howl's Den, where we will first, of course, be grabbing Sword, the first skill of the game that's actually permanent. Torch doesn't count, unfortunately. It would be great to keep Torch, but we can't. So instead, we'll pick up Sword, which Sword definitely has some great movement of its own. While it can't be used to float as well as Torch, it can definitely be used to float. And I don't know if we'll see either runners attempt it. There's a difficult trick here that involves knocking down a log and then using the spring of it to get under. Oh, Zuzek's going for it. Okay, Zuzek hits the spring jump and gets some good hovers with the torch. Zuzek does manage to get the trick. Scar taking a little bit of a safer route. There's a bit of time over their opponent there, but so again, not too much, as both of them do make it through. They're going to skip this slightly long cutscene that it's been worth skipping real time. And with that, they'll be now heading down into, well, I think it's still called Howl's Den at this point. Seeing how useful our sword is for slashing things, I hope you don't like sword slashing, because this is pretty much all we'll see of it. Our runners need it to break some early game walls, and then we'll get a much, much better weapon a little bit later on down the run. But speaking of things that are better, we only have wall jump for now, but both of our runners are going to be grabbing the best skill in the game, hands down, without question, is double jump. Double jump is so fun and amazing, and I love it, especially as a rando runner, especially in Blind Forest with extra double jumps involved. But unfortunately, neither runners will get to have that luxury. But they both do use double jumps very, very well in order to be able to get up to an extra Spirit Light pickup. And both of them, immediately after I say that, have a little bit of trouble with that lizard down there, but they still make it up. Some up slashes with the sword to gain just a little bit of height to make this platforming a lot easier. And we are in perfect sync heading up into what might be the most difficult trick of the game. So this really could be anyone's moment here to shine as we go for door skip. So our runners would very much like to save some keystones so they can use them later. And in order to do that, you need to not go through the keystone door. But in order to do that, you need to somehow get up through this area without using those keystones. And so Zuzek goes for a really risky strat on his first try, does unfortunately miss it. And Scar, oh my gosh, I can't even talk about this. They're just blazing through this so quickly. Scar gets door skip first try, using that Squonky to be able to get themselves a little bit of extra height with the pogo, as well as it will refresh their double jump so that they can get up to a tiny little crevice in the wall, just like Zuzek did right there as well. So both our runners are past this ridiculously difficult trick. That is so amazing to see both of them pull that off so cleanly. Even if Zuzek did have a couple of missteps, he was going for a more difficult version of the trick. So it's expected maybe to have a few errors, but Zuzek still pulls it off very, very cleanly on what I think was his third try. And with that, both of our runners are out of Howl's Den, up to the mainland of Inkwater Marsh, and we'll be grabbing Regenerate. Now, Regenerate is technically optional. You don't need it to break any barriers, like something like Burrow would have you do. But Regenerate becomes very, very useful for our runners once we get Dash. It's some amazing movement tech that both runners will be showing off very, very well once they get there. But for now, they'll just have regen sitting in their back pockets, waiting until they finally can use it for its, maybe not intended, but for our intended purpose as speedrunners. We do have an update. At regen tree, Zuzek was 5 seconds behind Skar. So even though they missed their door skip a couple of times, they had some really quick retries on it. And again, they did manage to hit it very, very quickly, compared to what could happen if maybe nerves or just bad luck happened. And that door skip can take a long while, but it didn't. Speaking of tricks, there's so much to talk about. Skar going for a little bit of a cutscene skip here. Zuzek will hopefully go for it as well, so you'll be able to see it if you watch the screen on the left. But just jumping over a small cutscene, again, every little thing that these runners are doing is saving time, and it's saving it so well. As Skar, oh my gosh, already going for aerial sentries as well. Both our runners have gotten the 400 Spirit Light that I mentioned earlier on in the run. We'll be got to buy Sentry, which Sentry is amazing. Sentry lets us jump stupidly high. It's not meant to do this, absolutely not. But if you use Sentry and Sword on the same frame when on the ground, you just get launched high into the air. It also works if you're using it in midair, but the timing on that is even more challenging to have them exactly 3 frames apart. So Skar has already gotten an aerial sentry jump on their first try, like insanely precise on that. We'll see how many more they get, as it is a very difficult trick that will be used a lot throughout the run in order to save time by just letting us just fly upwards in the air whenever we want, as long as we have energy, which right now, energy can be a problem. We only have the starting 3 energy cells, and that means we can only use Sentry 3 times without grabbing an energy crystal. Luckily, plenty of backups for our runners in case they miss any of their sentry jumps, but neither of them seem to be needing it with how consistently they've been hitting their sentry jumps so far. At Bowtree, our runners have now had a 9-second difference, so Skar is slightly extended the lead, but not by all that much. Zuzek is still keeping up very well, as both our runners are now into the section of the game and approaching yet another difficult trick. That's really what the early game of this run is. It's just a lot of tight tricks that can very easily end your run, but that means our runners have practiced them and know them super well. So on Skar's screen, we're going to see them grab a 4th health cell, which is absolutely required, as well as a shard that they grabbed earlier called Resilience, because our runners will be needing to damage boost through the poison water here. So Skar, taking a little bit of damage to set it up, will jump and hit regen on the same frame. That gives them extra iframes when they enter the water. And he will be swimming down to a save point midway through the water, and from there will respawn. First try for Skar, gets through the poison swim super duper easily. That trick can absolutely ruin everything. If you get off of your rhythm just a little bit, suddenly be stranded in the dark with really nothing to go off of but some muscle memory and timing. But Zuzek, oh my gosh, also gets a first try before I even have a chance to direct your eyes to his screen. Again, just watch either of our screens at this point. Both these runners are performing fantastically as we get down into, I want to say Bash. Dash is the other Ash skill, aside from Flash, but that one doesn't count. We don't get that one. So Skar will be heading down first one to reach the Dash tree. And we are going to be seeing a little bit of a resync here. Again, this run is performed using RTA strats for both of our runners, but that doesn't mean there isn't loading at all. So the timers have still gotten a little bit desynced from each other over the course of the 10 minutes that we've seen so far. So we do have an update then on their timers, and we last saw Skar had a 9-second lead Bow, but that has actually been reversed. Zuzek now has the 9-second lead at Dash Tree. So Skar definitely receiving a challenge right now. I don't know if our runners are watching the other streams. That is allowed, but not all runners do it, just because it can be distracting and intimidating to try to focus on someone else while you're doing your run. But either way, I definitely know both of these runners are still going to be giving it their absolute all as we see them really quickly climbing up this area, doing some pogos, doing some dash slashes in order to get through this area as fast as possible. And Zuzek there, yeah, keep an eye on Zuzek's stream. Zuzek did just do a wave dash. The trick I mentioned earlier with regen and dash just lets you dash into a wall, turn around, and fly. Zuzek attempts one there, but they're not always super consistent. But something that hopefully will be super consistent is the upswim through the dirty water. It's the same thing as before, except backwards, so it's harder. And Zuzek does manage to get to the checkpoint the first time, takes an intentional death to get extra iframes, that's the word, and then manages to get up first try. Very, very well done from Zuzek. Looks like they were struggling just a little bit with the aerial sentry jumps, but gets some nice backups and will manage to grab the lever. Scar right behind. First try swim from both of our runners. Mind-bogglingly perfect how well these two are doing. Like, okay, Scar did just take death right there. After you come out of the poison water, you're a little bit basically dead. And so Scar just clipped the spikes, took a tiny instance of damage, but luckily that lever counts as a save point, and so they will be respawned not too far behind. But again, those little bits of time losses definitely can add up for both of our runners. Because, well, like, look at how close they are. 9 seconds as of the last tree that they got. So we do see Zuzek has skipped the Hornbug fight. We do need to come back and do this later, because this is an all challenges speedrun, but we don't have our good damage upgrades yet. So since we will be coming through this area later, it's pretty easy to just come back and fight Hornbug when we want to. And so runners will be ignoring him for now and just heading on down to the Bash tree. Yeah, okay. So now we have Bash and Dash, and again, we won't be getting Flash, so hopefully no more, I was going to say alliteration, rhyming. No more rhyming needed from me. We do have an update on our times, and actually, Skarfelt is now taking the lead back again with 25 seconds of difference in the lead for Scar. Just incredible movement. It's such a joy to watch these runners. Zuzek just flying through this, I want to say Hollow Grove, but that's not the right name. I'm totally forgetting. Mora's spooky spider skeleton area. Just flying over the entrance to that. Scar doing the exact same. Both of them showing some great use of wave dashes. Both these runners know exactly where the right cliffs are that they can use that wave dash to get some incredible distance from. And so they'll be showing that off very, very well. As well as some other neat tricks. Like we see Zuzek here doing a little bit of sword movement. You can cancel dash with sword, and you can also use sword to just move yourself a little bit further forward in slow walking sections like this. So we can talk to the big frog. This is part of main quest order, and so we will be following his advice in order to go to the Inkwater Wellspring. The Wellspring, that's what it's called. Yes, I very much know the areas in this game and have never forgotten any of them ever. Both runners, Hornbug again, Scar with a really, really well-timed aerial sentry jump in the middle of a wave dash to just launch over this fight. So both of them now neck and neck in terms of where they are on the screen. Zuzek, oh, that launch was phenomenal from Zuzek. Launched almost into the ceiling of the room, but immediately afterwards does get a little bit of a cutscene that Scar manages to skip by dashing and then jumping as soon as they land. So while Zuzek will have to watch this big guy that we don't care about in this run talk, Scar will skip right through and will already be on to the Twylin shop. We have picked up a little bit more Spirit Light throughout the midsection of this early game in order to get 2 specific upgrades from Twylin. Those are Splinter, an upgrade for Splinter, which will mean our bow shoots out more shots at a time. And we will also grab Overcharge, which halves all of our energy use for doubling our damage. Our damage taken, I should say. So Overcharge is a big risk-reward shard, but when our runners are going to be constantly using sentry jumps and bow, as we'll see soon once we get into the Wellspring, that Overcharge comes in absolutely clutch. And our runners will be doing their best to just avoid taking damage altogether, so that drawback won't come into play. Zuzek! Did you just... Did you just aerial sentry jump straight into that and still? Oh my god. I can't believe that. That's so risky, but Zuzek hits the aerial sentry jump perfectly to avoid the cutscene. Scar did a little bit of a slower route to, avoid a little more consistently, but still, oh my god. Our runners are now watching the same cutscene. They are going to do this area in a little bit of an opposite pattern, so not entirely synced up in terms of time. But both of them are going to be getting up into Wellspring at roughly the same time. Scar having a little bit of trouble with an aerial sentry. Again, those are a really difficult trick. You have exactly 3 frames in order to hit that, in order to gain, good height, instead of just whiffing it and just floating there for a sec before you realize, oh, I have to try again. Oh, I'm running out of energy. Oh no, oh no, oh no. But Scar does recover and will now be joining Zuzek in watching our friends from Ori and the Blind Forest as they get on a boat. This cutscene isn't skippable. You just got to watch some good boatmanship. And Zuzek at 1 health. This can be very dangerous. Okay, Zuzek makes a great mental play there. Grabs a safety save. And actually, okay, doesn't end up needing that at all, as does manage to get the aerial sentry jumps on his second time climbing up through. But Skarfelt, gets them on the first try. So once again, runners absolutely neck and neck as they come into this area. And that will now lead to both of them grabbing their next skill, which is grapple. Oh boy, this race is so tight. I cannot believe that we are getting to witness this. Like, the semifinals are so good. I can't wait for the next round tomorrow. And then the finals. Oh my god, I love this game. These runners are just phenomenal at it. Putting on a clinic on how to run this game. All right. So we do see, we have stats that at grapple, Scar was 2 seconds behind, but did get the tree skip, which will save them a little bit of time. As we can see, Scar has taken the lead again. Like, they've traded the lead back and forth so many times at this point. Like, I can't even. Zuzek takes a little bit extra damage from a laser, does manage to get through, but that will cost a little bit more time, as Scar is already halfway through this combat arena. There's a reason we picked up so many bow upgrades, and it's because bow combat just melts enemies. Especially when our runners know exactly where they spawn and have overcharge to save them the energy, splinter to deal extra damage, and quick shot to just... It's just a shotgun. The bow is a shotgun, you guys, and our runners just completely destroy this arena. No traps given. Hopefully we'll be seeing some more amazing fighting from our runners as we hit a few combat arenas later on through the game. And a little bit of a cutscene glitch has Ofer kind of clipped through some spike wheels. I didn't know Ofer could do that, but who knows, man. This game is magic, and everything about it is perfect. There are no unintentional glitches at all. Oh, man. So with that, both of our runners do now have... Zuzek takes a little bit of damage here. Oh, almost touches the laser. Again, this game is so good, and these runners are so good. That tense moment just... I can't. It's so good. Just gotta breathe. Okay, we're back. Scar immediately hits some perfect aerial sentry jumps back to back. We'll be getting up, talking to Ofer, where we will be buying one last thing in this run, and that is teleport anywhere. So it is fast in order to be able to teleport, because, teleporting is generally fast, and we don't want to walk all the way back to the teleporters to do that. So this skill will let us, skip a bit of walking later on in the run, and by this point we have a couple of really good sources of spirit light that we have grabbed, and so the 500 needed to buy it isn't all that much, all things considered. It's time to talk. We are already into the Wellspring escape. Scar already takes the death attempting wheel skip. Scar looks to be going for all of the insane tricks with some wave dashes into a wheel. We'll see if they can hit wheel skip this time as well. Take some damage, but yes, okay, that one does not kill them. They will be going for another wave dash under the falling wheel to get them blasting through this area even further. if they do take a death in the remaining parts, they will have to do it all over again from where Zuzek is right about now. But I believe in Scar, and I also believe in Zuzek, who is trying to keep getting through this. We'll see if they don't go for wheel skip. That's completely valid. Wheel skip, as we saw from Scar earlier, can be very dangerous. So Zuzek is opting to avoid it. We'll take some of the other cool wave dash strats at the start of the fight, I believe. But already, Scar is done with this escape. Just blink and you will miss it how fast these runners are blazing every section of this game. And so Scar will be the first to get soggy, but not by a lot. Zuzek, right on their tail, will be bashing through this big wheel and takes the 4th bash just to play it safe. I don't disagree with that. Again, if you die at the very end, the entire thing over again. But Zuzek will clutch it out, not too far behind. And so let's look at our soggy times. Scar has a 21-second lead after getting soggy. So a little bit wider than we saw at Grapple with 2 seconds, but still not much between our two runners as we are now approaching what I'd consider the mid-game of the run and getting another little bit of a resync just to get our timers back in line with each other from what little loading that our runners are doing. So the category that we're running here is main quest order, which means that we have to complete all the quests, the main quests, in order, as the game intends. And so you might be wondering what our runners are doing going into this section of Lower Wellspring, which leads into Luma, because you kind of can't go into Luma without getting Glide and doing the coup section, and that would break the main quest order. But no. So it turns out that the only flag that checks for the main quest in Luma Pools is actually fighting Quolok himself. And I can't talk fast enough. Scar pulling off an incredible mid-air sentry in the middle of a wave dash again in order to be able to get into Luma Pools without Glide. Hopefully Zuzek will show that off as well. But both our runners will go into Luma Pools early because they can under the category rules, and doing this will get them water dash early. Ooh, Zuzek does fail the really difficult mid-air sentry. We'll be trying it again. So I missed it from Scar. Let's keep an eye out on Zuzek. Oh, beautiful! Right above, he hits this right before he hits the surface of the water. Just launches up into the air, and that will be his entry into Luma Pools without Glide as well. So, anyways, back to what I was saying. Our runners will be getting Water Dash early, which will let them go a little bit faster through a section that's just behind Quolok. And then they'll grab a teleporter that's right next to the Quolok boss fight in Luma Pools. Since they don't start the boss fight, it doesn't break the main quest order, and then they can use that teleporter later on in order to get back to this fight really quickly. Ooh, okay. So keep an eye out on Scar's screen right now. Scar did a trick called Puzzle Skip, where you die and it skips a puzzle. Don't question how it works. It doesn't. But that means that this door has a chance to be closed. So okay, Scar does manage to get through on good RNG, gets an open door this time. We'll see if Zuzek died earlier on, which means that they still have the chance to have that happen, even though they did do the puzzle correctly, as the developers intended, by not just dying immediately to a spike. It's just a puzzle. But Scar, out of energy a little, but clever move from them. Grabbing the seed there will place a save, and that saving and reloading in this game will give you a minimum of health and energy back. So Scar, that save, with a great game knowledge there to get a little bit of extra energy that they needed on a reload. And that will let them continue not talking to Quolok, because talking to people is slow. Talk is big, and big things are slow. At least that's what fighting games have taught me. But actually, this game too, Hammer has like the slowest attack animations ever. It hits like a truck and is fun, but yeah, big equals slow, and Quolok equals slow, so our runners will not be talking to him. Instead, we'll be heading up to grab their Water Dash. Zuzek takes a bit of a death, and a bit of another one is the risk of equipping Overcharge. So Overcharge doubles all damage taken, and in a mid-game area like this, with 5 health, that means basically any spike can just one-shot our runners. So they have to be very, very careful. They will be getting a little bit more health later on as they go through the mid game, but with overcharge and even reckless, it can still be very, very dangerous to take any amount of damage in the run. All right, so we do have an update at the Water Dash tree. Have a time difference of 25 seconds. 35 seconds. I know how to do math. With Scar being in the lead. And so they have used that lead to come and immediately start the Hornbug fight, where you can see all of those bow upgrades that we've gotten paying dividends as Scar is able to just melt this health bar. Hornbug's being a little bit of a nuisance, blocking shots, but Scar does still manage to finish the boss relatively quickly, just as Zuzek starts. So if you miss the health bar melting the first time, you get to watch it again, as, again, shotgun bow just deletes anything and everything. And so with that, Hornbug is defeated. We don't need to come and skip him or fight him anymore, and we can continue on into a actually really technical, heavy section of the game, Silent Woods. So Scar going to show off already. Actually hits the cutscene. There are ways to skip this cutscene. We'll see if Zuzek can get it. Just by jumping over and using sentry jumps to bonk the ceiling and reset your dash. So you can go skip the floor and then get a checkpoint to skip the cutscene. But not a huge time loss for Scar to take, especially with a 35-second lead already. And they will be using the water dash that they just got in order to head into Silent Woods. Scar will be doing another cutscene skip here. Yeah! Squeezes right through the area between the trigger and the wall, and will now be into Silent Woods, saying goodbye to Shriek. Hopefully we won't be seeing all that much of her at all, as Zuzek does go for the cutscene skip, and does get it. So that will be some time saved over Scar, and absolutely great execution from them with the aerial sentry jumps, the sword slashes to stall, dash, and then dying to do the RTA version of the skip. They are also going to do this cutscene skip here. No, they did brush up against the trigger, and we'll have to watch Shriek stand around a bit. But Scar, as I'm saying that, goes for another cutscene skip. That is the coup skip. But it's a very, very tight trick where you can, some really precise movement like that, just launch Ori up into the air and over a trigger. So we can go through part of this section without Ku, which, considering Ku can't do sentry jumps and Ku can't do like wave dashes, going without Ku is pretty fast. However, for main quest order, we do need to get Ku. So you'll see Scar here coming back towards the Ku cutscene, hitting a save trigger, dying, and for whatever wizard magic that this game is running on, that just gives us Ku. So Scar now has Ku, has successfully pulled off Ku unskip, as Zuzek is also pulling off Ku skip. A high five from our runners here in this Ku area. I absolutely love this run. Both of them just performing super duper well. So Zuzek will be doing the same Ku unskip that we just saw Scar do, triggering this cutscene, going back and dying, and then getting Ku. Because we need Ku in order to progress through main quest order. It's 100% required. So Scar now coming back with Ku. We'll just grab some quick keystones with Ku, because again, Ku can't do wave dashes or aerial sentries, but this area is full of wind. So pretty easy for Ku to just float on up and get some extra keystones that we will be using later on. And so, Scar with a great death there. That was intentional. Because Scar got the keystones in the door and then died, getting the keystones in the door saves the game, and then dying reloads. So since our runners are using real-time strats, that's the fastest way to get through that door, is just bonk your face into a giant exploding slime ball. We'll see if Zuzek goes for the same strat on their side as they come up to the same area. They're, again, going to grab the 3 keystones that they left behind before. We'll see if they go for that Scar. Oh, don't. Oh, my heart. Why? Why do you just go for that? You can go under that. You can go under that, like, little platformy spike section if you're really, really, really good. And Scar is really, really good, so I don't know why I doubted them, but, like, that looked so scary. Oh. It's so good. This game is so good. These runners are so good. Fantastic. Phenomenal work. Like, I don't know. I don't have words. It's just great. But we are going to be entering a little bit of a slow section here for both of our runners now. Now, there is a skip on Skar's side of the screen coming up. That's really, really hard to get. Ooh, that looks pretty good, but this is tight. No! Skar gets it! Skar gets the jump scare skip, where Shriek does not poke her head through a little rock, and that saves Skar just a little bit of time. And Skar has had a really, really good Silent Woods, like, nailing absolutely everything. Like, literally, perfectly through Silent Woods. Zuzek's had a couple slip-ups here and there. Otherwise, very good run from him as well, but just keeping up to Skar is going to be really, really difficult, considering how well they just obliterated Silent Woods. I can't believe that! They got everything! Dude, I am... Skar's popping off, but I'm popping off for Skar here. We'll see if Zuzek can get the same thing. Ooh, okay, bonks a little bit on the hanging boulder, and so Zuzek will be showing us what the jump scare looks like as Shriek tries to take a little nibble out of Ori and Ku. Doesn't manage it, but does manage to waste a little bit of Zuzek's time, unfortunately. So, Skar is growing their lead a little bit more and a little bit more with every trick that they manage to get as our runners enter the boss rush of this game. So, with main quest order, the next 4 objectives are to get the eyes of the forest, the heart of the forest, the strength of the forest, and what's the last one? Is it the mind of the forest? It's the something of the forest. But one of those, I don't remember the names of them, but the one in Windswept Wastes actually does need to be gotten last in terms of the main quest. So that leaves our runners free to choose whether they want to go to Moldwood and fight Mora, to go to Bower's Reach and say hi to Best Bear, or to go back into Lumapools and fight Kolak. Both runners will be taking the exact same route here, and that was Mora first, then Bower, then Kolak. And there's a reason for that. So, Moldwood, really close to where you start after fighting, or after completing the Silent Woods area, which our runners have now both done. So it's just really convenient to go to Moldwood first. Then they want to do Kolak last, because you'll get an extra help doing Bower's Reach, and that'll just help in the fight a little bit. So both runners will be going on that same path, Mora, Bower, Kolak, and that'll make it pretty easy to keep track of who's in the lead, which right now is definitely Skar, absolutely flying through Moldwood depths, not grabbing Flash, like I mentioned earlier, because Bow just counts as a light source. So Skar using that very, very well, actually barely using it at all, just moving the darkness fast enough to not need it most times, but just, it's so good. Like, I don't have words. I can barely keep up my commentary with how well these two are doing. It's so cool to watch, absolutely. And so we'll see Zuzek grab the bow here, doing some, just one little manipulation for the darkness in this area. They'll be doing largely the same strats going through, as Skar is already onto the Mora fight. Now Mora is very, very hecking dangerous. At this point in the run, Skar does not have a lot of health, does not have a lot of energy, and so needs to keep Overcharge equipped to conserve the energy, and then because Overcharge causes them to take double damage, needs to basically perform this fight perfectly. It does take an intentional damage boost there, but that means, like 0 room for error throughout the rest of this section. Runs a little bit low on energy. Great sword combat. Dodges a strike. That's more of Phase 1 done for Skar. Just phenomenally done. And we'll already be moving on to the little escape sequence before heading into Phase 3. Zuzek also getting into the fight. I love that wave dash to get into the fight. You can just jump over the slow walk almost entirely and get right into the cutscene. But as Zuzek watches Mora slowly creep up, Skar is watching Mora run straight at them back up into this little area. They will be equipping Reckless instead of Overcharge. So energy might be a little bit more of a concern, but Reckless lets them do 15% more damage. So overall in this fight, it helps. Oh my god, Skar, that's 1 health. Reckless also causes increased damage. So still definitely a risk-reward shard there. Scar, again, on 1 health with 15% extra damage taken. Oh, but Mora's almost dead. Okay, I believe. Okay, yes, Scar does finish off the fight. No deaths. Great job from them. Zuzek also having a pretty good phase 1. Managing to absolutely a whale on Mora while she's spawning spiderlings. Takes an intentional death there to refill their health and energy as they're getting into phase 2. We'll be following up through this escape the same way we just saw Scar did. And then getting into their own phase 3. Hopefully they pull it off a little bit more health in the tank so that I don't have another heart attack trying to watch. But, oh man, still, Zuzek's first part of the fight was really, really well done, and so I don't doubt that the second part will be going just as well as first. Although Mora immediately does give him a bad pattern, walking to the other side of the screen, but Zuzek, no hesitation, follows her over and is just blasting on her with our shotgun bow. There is the start of the darkness phase. Again, with bow as both our main combat weapon and our source of light, the darkness doesn't really scare either of our runners, so Zuzek takes a little bit of intentional damage boost because he has health, unlike Scar, and also managed to clear Mora. First try, very, very well done from both of our runners. As next up, we see Zuzek teleporting there, and Scar is already into. We are at Bowers Reach. And we are getting an update from our truck that at the end of Mora fight, Scar had an advantage of 1 minute and 6 seconds. So again, the lead is still building ever so slightly, second by second, as Scar just knocks out every single trick in this entire run out of the park, including that one right there. We didn't need to grab Flash in Moldwood Depths, and we also don't need to grab Grenade in Bowers Reach, because for some reason, Sentry counts as a source of fire. So if you look on Scar's screen right here, they drop a Sentry right outside that lantern, and that just counts. So using really precise Sentry placement, our runners are able to melt the snow, get the lanterns pop, and progress through Bowers Reach without grabbing without grabbing Light Grenade, another skill that, I mean, I guess it doesn't start with a G if you say Light Grenade, but it's Grenade. That's the skill. So another skill that starts with G. They'll be skipping it, and Scar heading into a fight as Zuzek tries to keep on his tail, heading into the earlier parts of Bowers Reach. Again, just seeing bow combat from a master like Scar, it's just, wow, magnificent. Scar bashing off of the enemies before they, when they roar, that lets their, because their shields in front won't let them take damage, so Scar getting on the other side and just sending a hail of bullets right into their butts, obliterating those Gorleks completely. We'll see Zuzek do the same thing in a sec, as Zuzek also gets a really good placement on his sentry to melt the ice, and will be following up as Scar. Keep an eye out. We'll be attempting a cutscene skip here. Ooh, it's really tight. I think that looks good. You have to get high enough in order to get over the cutscene trigger, but if you go too high, you actually like void out. So there's a thin line between success and failure on both sides. Scar manages to wiggle through in the perfect spot and gets started with Bowers' escape without watching the cutscene. Now, if Scar dies anytime during Bowers' escape, they will have to do that same cutscene skip over again. So it's a little bit risky, but Scar, just once again, absolutely perfect movement. Will be going for oh, dash to clutch it out. Oh, that looked so cool. Scar obliterates the escape, gets to get a little bit of a pep talk from Best Boy Bower, the only good enemy, or the only good giant animal, because it's the only one who doesn't fight you. And with that, Scar is now on to the last boss of the boss rush, which will be Quolok. Again, we got the teleporter right next to the Quolok fight, so Scar can just teleport straight there, give a little bit of a swim, give a little bit of a sentry jump to skip a cutscene, and oh, actually doesn't manage to skip the cutscene. That's unfortunate. I might have caster cursed that one a little bit. I am sorry, but oh no, they get the staff. Ah, beautiful. So that lets them play around with the water a little bit, which is hilarious to see. Speaking of cutscene skips, Zuzek also gets the cutscene skip in Bowers Reach very, very well. and immediately is going to do some wave dash tricks to build up some extra speed, even though the avalanche is just going to rubber band anyways. But hey, this is a speed run. We want to go fast. So Zuzek is going to do just that, making their way through Bowers very, very quickly, keeping up very well with Scar, even though Scar is just insane, just so good. Zuzek keeping up very, very well. About to finish his own Bowers escape, and then we'll be following Scar into the Quolock fight, which Scar is about to start. Just a little bit of an escape sequence to fight through first. Scar with a great wave dash to the left, because Quolock rubber bands. So Scar using that to just get him to the fight as fast as possible, and will hopefully be obliterating the frog just as fast as we saw them do with the Spoder earlier. Luckily, Quolock is very nice, and just lets us kind of wail on him when he's doing his phase transition. So Scar, like, it's half his health bar, like, in one volley of arrows constantly. It was so good. Just obliterating the frog. There's still phase 2 to go, which can be pretty dangerous, especially since Scar having to keep out of the water in order to use bow, but manages it very, very nicely. Finishes off the frog boss. Like, I can't keep saying how good this is. It's so good! Like, it's so good! Okay, again, I might have cast a curse to that, because as soon as I said that, Scar starts missing the aerial sentries. I'm so sorry, Scar! Oh, man. This happens every time anyone ever says anything. But Scar now has to watch the frog slowly and painfully and slowly give his last words. So that gives Scar a little bit of a breather, but Zuzek is into the escape sequence themselves. So we still have some action going on. Again, runners will want to complete this section as fast as possible because Quolock rubber band. So the faster you can do it, the faster you can start the fight. Zuzek already taking a little bit of damage, opts not to go under the rock for an extra damage boost, but that is totally fine. Will be getting into the arena to start his fight off as well. We'll see how quickly he can defeat the first phase of Quolock, hopefully without having the center of the floor destroyed. That can be very annoying. Ah, yeah, look at that. Zuzek purposely heads over to the side in order to prevent that from happening. Very, very clutch move from him. As he also gets to the halfway point and just gets to unload into the frog's belly. Actually takes a moment to grab some energy. I like that, because equipping Reckless makes you use twice as much energy. So in the second half of this fight, you can run out of energy very, very fast, especially when you can't use bow to duplicate the one shard that you do get. So Zuzek has a little chunk of health left, does a nice job avoiding the poison spit, and with that, there is Quolock going down for Zuzek as well. As our restreamer has pointed out, there was just 3 Quolocks on the screen. But we are now down to just 1. It is soon to go back up to 2 as Zuzek is entering into the long, very sad, very, very slow Quolock death cutscene. But Scar is through that cutscene, and that means their boss rush is over, and they get to continue on to the Windswept Waste. That's immediately going to start out with a cool trick, so keep your eye on Scar's side of the screen. On the right, as they go for the Floor is Lava feeding ground skip. So, basically, this area is a stealth section, and stealth sections are slow. You can get over some triggers in order to not have to do the stealth section, but that still causes a small cutscene. And Scar just decides not to touch the ground, so doesn't even get that small cutscene. Does miss a few aerial sentry jumps, which again, a bonkers hard trick with an exactly 3-frame window to get them, but gets backups very, very nicely. And with that, Scar is into the Windswept Wastes, will be grabbing Burrow. Burrow is completely required for like so many different things. So yeah, Scar's going to be grabbing that. It is also pretty fast, burrowing through the sand. It's like an extension of dash, I suppose, because you can't actually, at least not in rando, you can't burrow without dash. But Scar definitely has dash, as we can see with that beautiful wave dash to launch over to the Burrow tree and grab their copy of Burrow. Now they just have to finish off the rest of the Windswept Wastes, which is a pretty long area. Luckily not too deadly dangerous, unless Scar decides to eat a face full of spikes unintentionally. There will be some, not spikes, lasers. That's the word. There will be some lasers that Scar eats intentionally, but for the most part, we'll be trying to just avoid damage, blitzing through the tight caves. That really looked like Scar should have touched several of those spikes there, but their game knowledge is so great, they perfectly avoid everything as they continue on into this area. Now, if you missed Feeding Ground Skip the first time, Zuzek is also now going for it. So we'll be seeing using the Pogo to get some extra, to regenerate his double jump and dash, some aerial sentries. Running a little low on energy here. That could be dangerous, but okay, there's one. We'll be pogoing off of another skeleton to regen his dash, and that will be the floor is lava Feeding Ground Skip for both of our runners. A little sketch, both of them did miss a couple aerial sentries, but nothing too bad at all, as Scar actually does eat some lasers to the face. Okay, we'll be using regen in order to heal up so they can get that little bit of a damage boost through a laser into the spinning cycle and onto Storytime Temple. So Scar, there are ways to skip some of the cutscenes here, but not all of them. And so Scar might just have to sit through a little bit of lore, as that gives us then time to watch Zuzek, who ascends an area by slashing and jumping repeatedly. That is not optimal, but it looks cool and heck. So props to you, Zuzek, for pulling that off, making it look super sick, as he is also grabbing his burrow. Okay, let me do some math here, because we have the time difference between Scar and Zuzek. I think that's 1 minute and 48 seconds that Scar is ahead. So again, Scar has been building their lead really well through the mid game. We'll have to see if they can keep it up, as the late game can be very dangerous. But with how well we've seen them execute so far, I would not doubt it if they can just keep this pace up through the entire rest of the race. Yeah, I'm doing math. I love math. Math is great. So is math. But one of them is legal. Zuzek does take a little bit of a little exploding mine thing to the face. I don't know if those enemies have a name. So they're exploding mine things. Does get the second one to come through. That means he might be a little bit low on health coming into this laser section. And again, Scar takes some lasers to the face unintentionally. So if Zuzek takes a couple too many, that might be death for him. But we also might see, actually, yeah, Zuzek takes a quit to menu, which will help regain some of his health and energy. So that'll be very helpful for him managing to damage tank through these lasers, as well as getting them on a little bit better of a cycle. And, oh no, okay, actually bashes the slime into the spike, but will be doing regen? Yeah, okay, he will be regenning so he can go for this laser skip. Ooh, a little bit close, okay, Zuzek gets it, Okay, it's still on 1 health, missing a little bit of aerial sentries. Zuzek, please get this one. You cannot go into spikes, Zuzek, please. Okay, Zuzek is up. And with that, both runners are going to go into a Storytime Temple segment. So I'm going to take about 30 seconds while these cutscenes play out to just not talk. So listen to the beautiful music of Gareth Coker for just a little bit. I'll be right back. Remember everybody, stay hydrated. And I bet this sandworm really wants some hydration too. He's been stuck in the sandy desert for a long while, and that's maybe that's why he's so angry. He just wants a drink of water. And I mean, Ori has clean water, right? We got that pickup, right? But no, core runners will need to flee from the giant, very dangerous, deadly sandworm to make it out of the Storytime Temple, and that will let them enter into the final sections of the game. Scar giving the tail a little bit of a hug here. The tail's hitbox is not exactly as big as it looks, so Scar can clip into it just a little bit in order to save time. Oh, dashes over the spikes, very well done. this section of the last section especially can be really tight considering how small these patches are, but Scar is through the Sandstorm escape. Zuzek is about to start it, although he does have to watch some orbs do Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Megazord fusion. And we might also see Zuzek watching a little bit of a cutscene too. Although I bet Scar isn't gonna. Yeah, okay. Scar is going to do something called Patient Skip, where Scar will stand there doing nothing for 42.5 seconds. I promise this saves time. If you walk forward into the cutscene, there's like a 47 or 48 or 49 second cutscene that plays. But if you stand here doing nothing for 42.5 seconds, you can just teleport away. So Scar will be using that to their advantage, saving like 5 seconds. Just standing there menacingly, waiting for the timer to finally give them the teleporter that they want. With that, yeah, Scar is now on to the end game. So all that they have left to do in order to clutch out a win is to go grab Launch and then go through Spirit Willow and the final boss Shriek. Now, I said that's all they have left to do, but that's still a monumental task. There is so much that can go wrong in the end game, so hopefully Scar will be able to pull it off just as well as we've seen them doing everything else. And hopefully, Zuzek will also be able to pull off the Sandstorm escape just as well as we saw Scar do it a couple minutes ago. This section can be very... Oh my god, I cast her! I'm so sorry! I need to stop opening my big mouth! I mean, aside from the fact that it's like my job to open up my big mouth to keep the run interesting and informative, but okay, Zuzek doesn't manage to get past those spikes that time, and so to give them the benefit of not caster cursing, I'm going to focus on Scar, who has just obliterated the elevator. Again, showing off that bow combat super duper well to just get behind all of the Gorleks and just pump a shotgun into their butts to destroy them, and will now be, oh, that wave dash is so slick. They'll be using that wave dash to speed their way down through the, what's it called, like Weeping Ridge, I believe, and to get the final skill of the game, which is Launch. Launch is insanely powerful. So Ori, the Ori series has always been known for bash, but in order to bash, you need an enemy or projectile. Well, not anymore. Launch lets you bash using nothing. And Launch, well, again, you can use it anywhere that you want at all, but it also gets refreshed every time you touch a wall, every time you touch a floor, every time you touch a ceiling, every time you touch an enemy. And so Scar will be constantly refreshing and launching and refreshing and launching and refreshing and launching through the entire rest of the game, because this skill is so powerful. And in the hands of a top tier runner like them, it's going to be used to great effect throughout the rest of the run. Zuzek, without me caster cursing any of the rest of the Sandstorm escape, does manage to get through, but we do have an update from our truck that there is a 2-minute and 23-second difference after that escape. So Scar pulling ahead even further, and there's not much of the run left for Zuzek to catch up, especially, again, since Scar has been performing so well. And Zuzek's been performing super well too, but like, this is a race. Only one of these two top tier runners can be the toppest tier runner. I don't know where I was going with that, I'm sorry. But both of them will be top tiering into the final area of this very purpley, very scary zone. Zeus actually takes a little bit of a death there, unable to get a backup sentry jump. Again, an aerial sentry jump, which is only a 3-frame window. You have to hit the exact frame on a 3-frame window, I should say. So, managing to get through after a short little death. And immediately Scar takes a short little death. Okay, that'll hopefully help equalize it a little bit. But Zuzek will be obliterating these enemies, while Scar is avoiding, actually using the enemies here to get those launch resets. Using this enemy in particular to play a game that we call Quidditch, where you're supposed to take a different elemental shot through a series of teleporters as like a puzzle room, but Scar, with some really precise and really tight bash angles, manages to take a different shot that's closer and quicker through a difficult series of turns and breaks through the wall in order to get their third Willow Heart. There are 8 of them that our runners do need to break in order to access the final boss. We are not going out of bounds in this category. That is illegal, if you didn't notice from the amazing intro that played like 50 minutes ago. But yeah, Scar already halfway through. They have just defeated their 4th Willow Heart, and Zuzek is just getting launched. So again, there's some time that Scar still could lose, still pull out a win. Zuzek absolutely trying their best to keep up in this race and doing very, very well. Like keeping up with Scar, who is again world record holder in like everything that they play in the Will of the Wisp, is incredible. So props to both of our runners as they are now entering the final gauntlet of this game. At again, a little bit of a different. There are 4 Willow Hearts difference between them. So we might still see a couple deaths from either side to increase or decrease that gap, just because this area is so deadly dangerous. But for now, both of our runners are pulling through as best as they can. Okay, as I say that, Zuzek nearly takes it to the lasers, but he makes it too. I didn't cast Curtis this one. He makes it. We're good. But still a 4 Willow Heart difference. Zuzek has gotten his first, while Scar just got their 5th. And that means Scar is going to fight a normal enemy. Actually, you know what? Weaker than a normal enemy. This is like, you're more likely to die to like anything else in the game than this, at least if you're a speedrunner. Because with the upgrades that we've gotten, with Bow and Quickshot and Splinter upgrade and Reckless, yeah, that set of upgrades, the boss doesn't have a health bar anymore. It's not a great boss. It's a joke. It's a joke to speedrunners. It's not the final boss of the game, at least. So there will still be more epic boss bashing action to take place in a little bit after Skarfelt can escape the Pepto-Bismol maze, which they do at 1 health. Scar, please don't take damage. Oh my god. Okay, they will make it through. There's still a lot more lasers on their side of the screen to go, but oh my god, Scar. Okay, we're good. Like I said, this area can be super deadly death dangerous. Zuzek is also showing that off with some very unfortunate deaths in this second heart area here. Just because the lasers not lining up with what Zuzek wants to see, getting some bad grapples and bad teleporters, but does eventually make it through. Yep, right here, now breaking the second heart. Scar is almost on their 8th. Our truck says that was his 5th death, or Zuzek took 5 deaths in that area. So yeah, that's a little bit of a mistake. I have to wonder if Zuzek might be feeling any nerves, maybe watching Scar's stream and just seeing how well his opponent is performing. Yeah, that nervousness can come really in, I'm going to say like anti-clutch at this very pivotal moment of the end game. And yeah, Zuzek struggling a little bit with Quidditch as well, just gets a slightly off angle, and that makes a projectile bash into some spikes, gets another one. That bash angle just was not cooperating, and it's still faster to go back for Quidditch than it is to do the normal method, because the normal method is slow. And did Zuzek hit that one himself? Oh, I don't know. Yeah, Quidditch is a struggle, just showing how difficult these angles in this trick can be. Scar managed to pull it off first try, but Zuzek, this will be his 4th, and it's very, very difficult. Something else that's very, very difficult that Scar's probably going to make look easy is final boss fight. I can't believe it. Scar. Okay, that phase is very, very consistent, at least to the start. If you don't die, Sheik will always do the same pattern. So Scar knew what was coming up, but just I didn't even see it, man. I was too busy looking at Zuzek. So Scar already on phase 3. In this phase, the RNG is not set in stone. So Scar's hoping for some lucky patterns. Does get a swoop phase at the start, which is a bad pattern, but then gets this laser phase, which is a good pattern. We'll see what Scar gets next. The downswing. Yep, that's a decent pattern. Scar might be able to finish off. Yeah, that is the end of phase 3. Scar going to take an intentional death there in order to regain some health and energy. And that will be the end of phase 3. Phase 4 is the final phase of the game for Scar. So keep an eye on Scar's screen. This starting sequence is a little bit scripted. Shriek cannot deal damage to you when you're in this corner. And then there are 4 swoops that will happen that Scar knows the exact order of because they happen the same every time. Scar gets a little low there for my liking. And launches through Shriek's face. Does fall a little bit low. We'll have to see if he can get enough damage. They can get enough damage. They do get enough damage in before Shriek goes up again. And that is time. Scar with a 1 hour, 12 second run. Breathtaking. And by that I mean I'm gonna go take a breath. Watch Zuzek's screen to see a boss melt. Or not a boss, I suppose. Yeah, I barely have a chance to get a drink before the quote-unquote boss is dead. Just because of how well our runners have optimized their loadout to destroy that fight. And Zuzek, still a very, very solid pace. Not going to be beating Skarfelt in this race, but would 100% beat me in every single possible race. So props to him for pulling out still an amazing run. And we'll continue on. Yeah, I don't know if he's watching Scar or watching the race time room. If he is, then he'll know that the race is over, but I'm still going to complete it because, hey, he can pull off some real cool looking strats. Potentially like this one where you can... Okay, he just takes the damage boost, which is totally fine. Those lasers have like bad hitboxes where at the very base of the laser, you can just kind of walk through or fly through. Just like the... not just like this wheel. This wheel has very well-defined hitboxes, but Zuzek will just be able to use a couple launches to zip through in one cycle through that spinny wheel of Pepto-Bismol death, and will be finishing off his 8th heart. Now, he will be attempting Shriek next. We'll see if we can actually, watch phase 1 this time, as I completely missed it from Scar. Hopefully you guys were paying a little more attention, audience, but... It goes by so fast for top tier runners like these two. So Zuzek approaching the fight, some sentries and launch to get over here, skip a little bit of the slow walking section, and skip a cutscene. Now we get to see phase 1 of the fight. Shriek will stomp the ground, and then we'll stomp the ground one leg. Zuzek manipulates the leg a little bit, takes a little bit of damage from the fire. Don't think that was intentional, but we'll continue the pattern of down and stomp, and down and stomp. There we go. There's phase 1, obliterated as usual. It does take a bit of damage. I don't know if that was intentional or not, so we might see an intentional death from Zuzek to refill some of his health, or we might see him pop out regenerate for just a little bit after this escape section, where Zuzek will just be using launch and some uneven terrain to speed up his movement as much as possible. As he, takes a little bit of extra damage there. That one in the burrow section is really, really weird. Like, the hitbox for it is dumb, and it's hard to avoid, but, not gonna take an intentional death. Completing the rest of this fight on 1.5 health, which, that's terrifying, but Zuzek does get a really good pattern to start. Stays in the air next to Shriek for quite a while, and then gets swoops. Yeah, classic Shriek. Okay, only one swoop. And so... he avoiding the wing very, very nicely, not attempting to go for the iframes because, he doesn't need to. He can just swoop around the edge and still getting quite a bit of damage. So laser phase, it will still come out. Shriek will finish her last attack after phase 3's health is depleted. So, the runners doing intentional deaths like really, really dangerously. If you die before phase 4 officially starts, you have to redo phase 3. And both our runners were like at the very bottom of everything. But do manage to get out of it okay. Zuzek is a little low on energy. Didn't have enough to duplicate the crystal with bow, but hopefully we'll still have enough in the tank in order to destroy the phase 4. So he's getting over, using some sword slashes to get a little bit of extra damage in without wasting energy. Very, very nicely done. And yeah, there we go. Zuzek finishes off Shri. We will see a final time of 104.26. Again, incredible run from Zuzek. Unfortunately, not enough to beat Scar in the race, but just very, very, very well done. These runners showing off their phenomenal skills at Ori and the Will of the Wisps main quest order tournament. GG's have been said in race time, and with that said, we will quick check if our runners would like to come in for an interview or not. Interview. I have to talk out loud when I'm typing, I'm sorry. Oh, Tukil beat me to the punch. Thank you, Tukil. Okay, let me take a little bit more of a breather before I talk to our runners quick. Well, yeah, I definitely needed a breather after that phenomenal race. There were a couple of really tense moments in there, a couple of moments where I couldn't breathe, not because it was like scary or anything, but just because it was so cool to see both runners pulling these tricks out at the drop of a hat. And so, yeah, I don't know, just great. So we are hearing that Zuzek is not going to be able to interview. So if Zuzek, if you're watching this in the future times, thank you for the race. It was so good. It was so good, and we hope to see from you throughout the Ori community and Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Even though we might be doing a third place match, that's up to the runners, I suppose. But there have been a couple of talks, so we'll see if that comes to fruition. But we will for sure be having a finals match, and that finals match will include Skarfelt. So pulling them in, Scar, GG's on the race.
GG.
Oh, that was so good. Like, first question, why are you so good? So
Thank you. Yeah, I can't really answer that in any way. I don't know. I will say, the start of this race was a bit dicey actually. Zuzek had the lead on me for like up to like grapple, I think.
it was a lot of back and forth by seconds, but yeah, you were 2 seconds behind at grapple.
Yeah. I was definitely like, further behind as well at dash and stuff. But honestly, I felt my mid to late game was like extremely strong this run. Like, my bar's reach felt particularly really good. The wave dash at the start of the reach escape is like the best I've ever done. It was so good. I was really
Yeah.
happy with the mid game of this run for sure.
Another area that I particularly loved seeing from you was your Silent Woods. So just is that because that one has a lot of really really tight tricks like coup skip and coup unskip. You even got the scare skip. So is that an area that you practice a lot for all the technical movement in there, or was that just like off the cuff, like yeah, I'm just gonna go for all these tricks and then you just hit them?
So one thing I should say is there's a part in Silent Woods on Coup where if you just run off the it's like it's just on the howl thing, just after the howl petrification thing. If you just run off the platform and glide, you can jump underneath that rock there. And that looks really cool. It actually loses time. But I went for it at GDQ, so because of that, it's like I had to go for it in every race. And somehow I haven't actually messed it up yet. It's actually really hard. I can't believe I've gotten it every time. Like in practice, I get it like 1 every 5 times. It's really hard.
You went for a 20% trick in a race like this? Scar, are you mad, lad?
Yeah, but it's not. If you die, it's not a huge time loss. Like I only went for the GDQ because J Hob said he was going to call me a bitch if I didn't. It was something like that. He said he like he like really wanted me to see me go for it. So I went for it. And I was like, well, if I went for the GDQ in front of 70,000 people, I can afford to go for it. You know, in these races.
Well,
But
yeah,
as for the rest of Silent Woods, Scarescape is one that I'm personally like very confident in, very comfortable in. I have a lot of practice at doing it because it's a pretty significant time saver. Like it's like 9 or 10 seconds, so I practiced it like a lot. So I feel really good about that skip. Um, and that's like the main thing I'm focusing on in Silent Woods, and because it's like the only like really difficult thing in Silent Woods, like after you get on Ku, because before that it's like it is hard, but after you get on Ku, you have like 2 minutes to like breathe and like let yourself think and go, okay, well, I need to get ready to do this hard skip, um, and just focus on everything that is needed for it. So yeah.
yeah. And so we have a couple questions from Truck and Restreamer who are helping me out. I'll give shout outs to them again, but just a little bit of shout outs for them now. So first off, you said you knew you were behind in the early game. Um, how do you deal with that with nerves? Were you worried at all? What was going through your head in the early game parts?
So it's funny because this happened at GDQ as well, but like a lot more. I didn't know I was behind at GDQ, but I played really badly early game, so I just felt I was behind. And then at that, I was like, oh, it doesn't matter. It's a showcase. I'll just play the best I can, whatever. But at this, I was like, fuck, I don't want to go out of the tournament. So I did get a bit nervous, honestly, like because Zuzek was just like not losing time on like nearly any split. It felt like, and I was making like a lot of mistakes in the early game. Like I was like fourth try torch hover. My split towards Bash was really dicey. Like, get like the part where I got quick shot was like really messy. Like, there was just like a lot of like weird flubs in the early game, and I did get a bit nervous to be honest. But my wellspring felt pretty good. But then when I died at the wellspring escape, I was like, okay, I need to actually like sit down and focus and like stop dying in silly ways. Uh, I think that after that death, even though that death was like one of the more tilting ones, I think that that death actually got me back into like, okay, like just focus. You know, you can I can win if I just like stop doing silly stuff.
Yeah, well, you definitely stopped doing silly stuff. Aside from that 20% under the rock thing, that
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
count that one as silly still.
Yeah,
And
that's funny though, so it's fine.
something else that might have been silly is after phase 3 and Shriek, you dipped really, really close to dying a little early. Was that just confidence that you knew the timing so well after so many runs, or was that showing off? Or
I know it was just like that. Yeah, I just knew it would work. Like every time I do, because it's as long as the health bar comes back in before the fade out, it doesn't matter when Ori dies. So, um, it's not, for this tournament I've had to keep sound on, like music on, but normally I turn music off because Shriek leaving the screen and entering the screen is like a sound cue thing where you can hear what attack it is before you actually see it. Um, so I basically because I've studied that so much, I'm very familiar with when I can die basically to enter phase 4. Because the earlier if you're going to take an intentional death, the earlier you die, the less time you lose, right?
yeah,
So
that's true.
and like it does come down to like multiple seconds if you do a late death. So I thought it was important to optimize that back when I was labbing Shriek really hard.
All right, yeah, and you nailed it. Pretty much everything in the mid and late game was just great.
Thank you.
So, one last question before we go. You are now moving on to the finals. And so for that, your opponent is going to be either Ryan or Seal. What do you think about the race between those two, who your next opponent will be, and how you're feeling about that?
First question is, when is their race?
Their
It's
race is tomorrow at 5 p.m. UTC.
I can't watch that. That's a real shame.
Oh,
I really wanted to be able to see that, but I'm
hopefully you'll be
going
able to watch
to.
it back then, because it's
Yeah,
bound to be
yeah,
a really good one, just like this one.
yeah, for sure. I'd like to. As for like, I don't like. I think that both of them are really good, and both of them have gotten like. I would have said, oh, it's Ryan favored, but then Seal's time for the last yes, Seal's time the last race was really really good.
Yeah, he got a
Um,
sub hour.
yeah, right.
Hmm.
So, and like Ryan's times like got better throughout the qualification. I don't know what his times were in the tournament so far, but like if they both pull out sub-hour times, like we could have like a really really good race there. So like, if I'm not able to watch it, I'm excited to watch it back. And best of luck to both of them on Sunday.
For sure. Yeah, their race is again tomorrow at
Saturday.
12,
Sorry.
12
Sorry, go on.
or 5 p.m. UTC. I was trying to read my time. That is about 16 and a half hours from now. So if you want to see more Ori and the Will of the Wisps, then tune back in for our second seed Ryan versus our third seed Seal to find out who will be competing against Skarfelt in our finals. But that is it for this race. I have been Turtle, your commentator, and was joined today by Ryan on the truck and 2Kill on Restream. None of this would have been possible without either of them, so thank you two so much, as well as thank you to Scar and to Zuzek for the phenomenal race that we just got to bear witness to. But that is all for now. Hopefully we will see you again in 16 and a half hours for our next race of the Main Quest Order Tournament. Until then, bye!